Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Power Up Your Database webinar series. This event is brought to you in partnership with Nutanix and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's webinar. Now, this is a great series of events we've got lined up. This is the first of these events in the series, so I encourage everyone to stay tuned to your email because we've got numerous other events lined up in this series. This is a 7-part series, so watch your email inbox for invitations to upcoming events in this series on powering up your databases with Nutanix. Thank you everyone for joining us. I've got a couple extra expert speakers that I'll introduce you here to in just a moment, but very quickly, I want you to know that we want this to be an educational event, so we will be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the event. You can ask your questions there in the questions box on the left-hand side of the slides window, and we'll be queuing up the best questions for that Q&A session, so get your questions in early. Experts from Nutanix are standing by to answer those questions. Let's see, next up, we have a number of handouts there in the Handouts tab, URLs to Nutanix Database Solutions. If you want to click on that, learn about this for yourself, Nutanix for Microsoft SQL Server, Nutanix for Oracle, and how to test drive Era. That test drive link is there, as well as a couple of PDF assets to turn your databases into a service and 5 reasons to run your databases in Nutanix. So make sure you check those out now, and you can read those further after today's presentation. And then finally, we'll be giving away a Tango $300 gift card at the end of today's event to one lucky winner on the live presentation. If you're not familiar with Tango gift cards, they can be redeemed for electronic gift cards at common retailers, restaurants, online. So it's kind of a universal gift card. You don't have to use it in just one place. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. The terms and conditions can be found there in the Handouts tab. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to today's 2 expert presenters. They are Mr. Bala Kuchibala, Vice President and General Manager of Nutanix Era and Business Critical Applications, and Mr. Greg Stridham, Director of Product Marketing at Nutanix. Bala and Greg, thank you so much for being on the event today.
Thank you.
All right, can you guys hear us?
We can, yep, take it away.
Okay, so, yep. Thanks everybody, welcome to today's session. We're really excited to be here and to be chatting to you today. This is going to be a fun and engaging event. I've got my esteemed colleague here, Mr. Bala Kuchibotla, who's actually going to be the main man for today's session, and he's going to be walking us through some of his perspectives in terms of his wealth of knowledge and experience around the whole data management side of things, data management, and specifically dive into some of the areas around database and really kind of help you guys and take you on a bit of a journey in terms of what are some of the options and solutions that we have available for you guys so that you guys as business leaders, as IT folks, or even as the practitioners within your organization can really rally together to be able to look at that data, be able to get that data under control, really be able to harness the power of that data so you guys can unlock the true potential for the business. So with that said, the way we set this up is I'm going to ask Bala a series of questions, and it's going to be kind of like a little Q&A or a fireside chat, however you will. So with that, thanks Bala for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. And I thought maybe we'll start up with like let's call it an ethereal question. So, you're really no stranger to the world of data and especially databases. So why don't you tell us a bit as an introduction in terms of, what's your experience, the career path that you've taken, understand you were at Oracle for some time as well, and really how you came to Nutanix.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, audience. Yeah, my career started with databases pretty much on day one. I lived and breathed databases throughout my career. Like I started like a database kernel developer in a database called object-oriented Version. Can come up to mute yourself? I think it's causing friction. Yeah. So It's a database called Versant Object Database. It has a nice logo called Pigs Can Fly. We were thinking of competing with relational database like Oracle in early 90s and late 90s. It's an object database, and I was the main developer for version 4 and 5 pretty much. Learned a lot about it, but obviously business didn't take off, and then we all need to kind of find our paths, and some of us went to Google, some of us went to Oracle. I chose Oracle because I like databases. I would like to work in the kernel. And then I pretty much was there at Oracle for 14 years, doing Exadata manageability, enterprise database manageability, building the private cloud, what we call, eventually they become the back end of the public cloud. So quite a bit of stuff. And if some of you guys have used Oracle 11G, 10G, probably you will see some of the code developed by me and some of my colleagues at Oracle around all about SQL tuning advisors and stuff like that. And then I left Oracle as vice president of engineering in the pursuit of bringing the database cloud experience to the on-prem, not just for Oracle, for all kinds of databases. And I chose to work at Nutanix, and Nutanix CEO was my colleague at my earlier days at Oracle. And here we are trying to build a database services for customers defined by them at their terms. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's great. So I think we kind of miss each other on the paths within Oracle. But anyway, some great adventures there. And, obviously people, organizations such as Oracle have been one of the leaders in the whole database environment. But, as we may know, there's certainly some complexities and limitations that may be encountered there. But nonetheless, if we let's scope out a bit before we sort of dive in. When we look at this ever-increasing autonomous world that we see out there, we see this whole notion of around self-driving cars, and actually I believe there's even the advent of self-flying taxis. Certainly Uber and some Chinese corporations are developing this very rapidly. And there's even, within the home, the self-operating kitchen, stuff like that. When we look at that, right, in terms of that, there's a lot of talk about data, right? So if we go back into the business world and about data becoming autonomous, and so I'm just really interested to get kind of what's your take on this subject. How real is it? Is it becoming reality in the business world? And if so, how do you see this really sort of shaping the way business and IT is going to work now and in the future?
Great question, Greg. And obviously, as you see, the world is becoming pretty advanced in everything autonomous, as you rightly called it out, self-driving cars to all the way to self-operating kitchens. But if you see the trend, these advancements happen almost a step ahead in consumer-grade technologies, where we all end up using it. But in my humble opinion, the enterprise applications, enterprise-grade databases are definitely lagging behind some of these advancements. And there is a thought leadership that it has to become autonomous. If you see from Oracle, they call it autonomous database. But what I see in the real world is a step towards autonomous is trying to make these things simple, right? So first, we need to create an iPhone experience for databases. That's the way I see it. And then the databases can pretty much drive on that. So that's the step that we need to earn the right to get there. So obviously, there is thought leadership. There are technologies that are allowing us to get into that. But the most important thing in what I see is to get to the process of what I call one-click simplicity, or bring the iPhone experience and then move it to make it autonomous kind of stuff. So as you can see, most of these data science tasks are more than 40% will be automated. And that's what we see. Yes, so there is a secular direction about autonomous, but there is a step towards that called simplification of your databases, make them efficient and elegant.
Right.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Bala. So, been reading some articles, and you probably recall this. It was back in May 2017. The Economist magazine published an article and had some of the big tech giants on there and stuff like that. And they made this very bold statement to essentially say, hey guys, data, not oil, has now become the most valuable resource in the world. So talk about a pretty bold statement, right? But that's what they claimed, and they went through some pretty in-depth sort of analysis in terms of how that's happened and how data, and we all know the value of data, but it's really become this very prominent and highly focused sort of thing within organizations, right? Data is your most valuable asset and resource. And so, the next question that begs it, and where companies are really starting to look into is, well, how do they harness the power of that, right? And so there was also an IDC report that they did some analysis, and what they were saying, for example, is that those companies that are able to take that data and be able to really harness the power of that data, I think globally they were saying it would lead to something like a $430 billion advantage to those organizations that were able to do it versus those who are not able to harness the power of their data. So, and there's other things like McKinsey did a report in terms of how, if you're able to, again, harness the power of that data, how you can actually increase the ability to acquire and retain customers and increase profitability. So, when you're speaking to customers and stuff like that, how what's the feedback you're getting in terms of how important data is to their business, and what steps specifically are they trying to undertake to unlock this potential?
Yeah. So there is unequivocally one single statement: data is the new currency. If you have the right knowledge, right data, there's so much that you can do in the companies. You can keep yourself ahead of the game in many aspects and try to create differentiation, create the delight, I would call, for the people. So, but data is like, data comes in all shapes and forms, right? As you rightly call the word of harness. There is a lot of gold nuggets. There are gold nuggets, like the same thing that happens in when you try to dig the gold. There's a lot of ore that you need to kind of mine and then process it.
Right.
That is what challenge is all about, right? So data is all there, but the data that is relevant for your business, that makes the differentiation, you need to process it, you need to harness it, you need to make it accessible to some of your key decision makers, and you need to make it agile, you need to make it efficient, elegant. That's where the challenge is. So everyone unanimously agrees, to all the company CEOs and CTOs and CDOs that I meet, everyone understands the value of the data. The question is, how do I make it accessible, at the same time make sure that it's secure for the companies, because data can be misused too. So it's a paradox that they need to deal with, it kind of stuff. So there are a lot of imperatives to monetize data. Obviously, as you can see, there's a cloud phenomena that's happening. So the people are looking at, when I talk about cloud is an experience, by the way. It's not about hyperscalers. So, but they have dispersed data centers. They need data to be available. Some of them are in public cloud, some of them are in on-prem. So they need a hybrid cloud platform, obviously, to get the data flowing. And then we'll talk about that. And to maximize the data value. And at the same time, most of these organizations, the question that I get is, hey, I like the data access that needs to be given to everyone, but I also need to protect it. There are compliance rules, there is regulations that this data cannot be available there, or it needs to be sanitized. You cannot just give all the raw data with all the social security number, credit card numbers to training teams. They need production looking like data, but you need to kind of create some sanitization around it. So there is, I would say, access and safety. They both are actually they're at odds with each other all the time. When you try to protect the data, you can't make it accessible, but when you try to make it democratize the data, you compromise on this. So people, when I meet them, they kind of deal with these issues. These are the things, but everyone realizes that data is the new currency. The better kind of, I would call, fine-grained data that they have, the relevant data they have, they're going to make the difference for their customers.
Yeah, no, I was just sort of affirming what you were saying is especially with the cloud, that whole hybrid cloud, some people have some of their workloads in the cloud and then productions on premise. So one of the things I know you've seen a lot of, Bala, is, for example, a lot of customers are taking their dev test environments and running dev tests in the cloud, spinning up, because it's got that flexibility, the agility to spin it up in the cloud. They can run and test it. It's kind of pay as you go type of thing. And then once they're done and they want to move to production, they can then drop it back into, their private cloud or on-premises platform. So those are definitely some of the things that I think the cloud is bringing to light. So hence the hybrid cloud platform being an essential sort of platform to really think and start, taking that data and try and create more value from it. So look, I think, these are great things, right? And they're all very helpful, but though perhaps a lot of customers out there may have the intent, that road to that, let's call it data nirvana, is fraught with some challenges, and it's not quite as simple as a lot of customers may have hoped for. So what do you see as being some of the key challenges out there that businesses, or specifically in the business arena, is facing? Bala?
Yeah, it's a good question. You have some stats that we are showing. Databases are generally means to an end. Essentially, they are not a solution for the business. They are means to an end. But the process of getting the data has become so cumbersome, it kind of slows down the business innovation so much. If you can see, 70% of the DBA time spent in the lower value tasks, what we call them as undifferentiated mundane tasks like provisioning, patching, taking a backup, trying to create clones of the databases. These are like, if you're looking at a service, if you're talking about a cloud experience where you're trying to enjoy this whole thing like electricity at your home, you're just enjoying the electricity and then paying the bills at the end of the month. You're not worried about who's producing, how is being distributed, how is getting transformed, all that stuff. You are enjoying it as a service. You're consuming it. Databases, what we have seen traditionally, because of the late 80s, when most of these databases, prevalent databases that we talk today, were invented or matured before cloud, the life cycle is kind of very closely knitted with it, and it causes these DBS to spend quite a bit amount of time, almost 70 to 80% of the time, on the lower order tasks, which are not really valuable to the business. They should be focused on how do I tune, how do I make these databases more performant, rather than worrying about how do I take the provisioning, whom should I talk with my storage team, networking team to provision, and how it takes like 16 hours to do patching, all that stuff, right? So as you see some numbers, and then just trying to keep the database up all the time it's a full-time job for some of them. It costs a lot of money. And then as you can see in subsequent slides, if you can move to the next slide, the explosion of the data in this new age also compounds the thing. Earlier, people are dealing with maybe a dozen databases at max. Now we're talking about hundreds of databases. But we can't just throw the OpEx, we can't just throw lots and lots of database administrators to the job. It needs to be cloudified. It needs to be done in a single one-click way. You have to manage your fleet. And you can see those numbers that we are talking about it, right? 120,000 databases, managing these many databases. All the stats are basically telling we cannot keep up unless we do some innovation and bring the cloud-like experience. And we'll talk about in a moment what does it to bring the cloud experience at the same time solving on-prem challenges is the issue here. And then what you see, Greg, is a proliferation of database engines too. It's not like you have one engine to work with. In most every company of some medium size, you have Oracle, you have Postgres, you have some database in MySQL, SQL Server databases, different sizes and types. Some of them are production, some of them are dev and QA, some of them are creating lots and lots of copies and clones. And then all these, I will call
different data sources as well, right?
Yeah, complex operation. All of this creates huge, I would call, inefficiency in the system. Right? Look at this way. I would like to draw an analogy. we all do copy-paste operations on our laptops, right? Pretty much every day and day out. Something of that happens in data centers all the time for databases. Now, this seemingly simple, innocuous operation of our daily life, which is like copy and paste, like Command C, Command V, becomes the most dreaded, complex, long-running process in the data centers. There are dedicated cloning administrators I have seen. So this is the challenge. And then if you look at the provisioning aspect, and please, let's go to the next slide. If you look at traditional database provisioning, we see from some banks to get a database, it takes like 3 to 5 weeks because the ticket passes from storage team to compute team to networking team, and then the database administrators, and then the backup teams will come into the picture. So the ticket passes about 4 or 5 teams. There are processes, they are siloed. All of this adds to the whole thing. And that's the reason that these teams are thinking that, okay, let me enjoy the cloud. The cloud is about, I swipe my credit card, I get the database of the type that I want. That's the kind of experience people wanted. And question is, can we make all these on-premise databases go into cloud? Is something that we're going to talk about it. But this is some of the big challenges that we see. Yeah. Next
what
slide,
about like copy data management? You touched on that a bit, so I think there's some data points here, because that's definitely a big area, right? That's a lot of energy and cost, I think, associated with it.
What we observe is for every database, production database that is there in the system, in the top G500, if you look at the corporations, they almost create at least 8 to 12 copies for every database. It could be QA teams, it could be analytics teams, it could be training, it could be multiple dev people, or some people doing hard bug fix chasing. The reasons are innumerable, and you try to create copies. But imagine you have a 40 terabyte database and you create 10 copies of that. And then in the current technology, they're all full copies. We're talking about 400 terabytes of storage. That's a storage explosion. And I think IDC talks about it. This is a $50 billion problem alone. And question is, can we make it efficient and elegant? This is a big problem for in the data centers which deals with a lot of data.
And so, obviously, there's let's say the administrative things, because like copying or cloning and refreshing, that's a cumbersome task. Plus, then there's all the storage components, and we've heard of lots of companies like just throwing more storage at it, right?
Yeah. So the whole point is
promise or.
So the question is like the non-prod environments. The cost of managing non-prod environments is as good as or more than the prod environment. Meaning, if there is a VP in this audience, in $1 million, probably $500K or $400K is spending on the production databases. Remaining $600K is going for non-prod environments. This is a big challenge. How do you make it efficient? There's another big interesting issue in data management. If you go to the next slide. Then this is very relevant for traditional database architectures. You tend to see lots and lots of software config pollutions, meaning these databases tend to have versions or patch set units, PSUs, whatever you want to call, and some of these customers do want one-off patches for them. So what happens is this is an interesting configuration of a customer around 2,000 databases they are managing. But if you look at closely, there are 400 distinct software configurations, close to 400 distinct software configurations. Now imagine the pain of database administrators, data officers to bring compliance to this database estate that they're managing, it kind of stuff. There is a need for simplifying this estate. And that's what cloud is good at about it. But the challenge is, how do you bring the cloud experience to this on-prem? Because not all these databases can go to cloud just like that, because there's a lot of data sovereignty. Some of these app applications are not tailor-made for cloud. They just can't do a lift and shift. There are a lot of other challenges just to move these apps as is, and that poses all these kinds of interesting issues. These are some of the challenges that I see in data management at customers.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And so, what I'm seeing here, these are a lot of certainly at the practitioner level, it's a lot about the database sort of life cycle management, right? As they go through the life cycle, these are some of the challenges that they're facing on a daily basis. And like, as you said, you know, and again, some of the data points we've seen, like nearly 80% of the budget tends to be spent on maintenance-led activities rather than these folks becoming focused on. I know you said that database is like this utility and stuff like that, but it is something that's enabling the business, or the idea, intent is to enable the business to, get products to market or services to market a lot quicker, accelerate the rate at which they can perform transactions and then create insights for the business. So, but certainly a lot of different challenges. So why don't you, let the audience know in terms of what you and your team have done, as taken your knowledge and experience from Oracle and bringing that into Nutanix in terms of a solution, like a path and a platform that customers, might want to be excited to hear about?
Yep, thank you. Yeah, so if you observe the phenomena of the cloud does two things. It brings the consumer kind of experience where customers, the application owners, application developers, as well as database administrators consume the databases as they're supposed to, meaning they go to the cloud and get a database endpoint and they're connecting to it, they're working it. They're not worried about provisioning, they're not worried about patching, they're not worried about data protection, backup, all that good stuff. So there is goodness of the cloud experience. The question is, can I bring that kind of cloud experience to my on-premise database? Because it's not a simple discussion that I can move my databases in the cloud. So basically, can I bring the cloud to my database estate on-prem? That is what we are trying to kind of started doing it at Nutanix. Basically, if you can look at what Nutanix does is, it's a infrastructure as a service at the platform level, which is, I'm trying to draw parallels to what AWS, some of us get exposed to, equivalent of EC2, EBS, and S3 like services on the infrastructure. On top of it, we have a product called Nutanix Era, which is the AWS RDS equivalent, meaning at your terms, at your on-premises, you will be able to have the cloud experience for the databases that you are managing today with our software. That is what it is. And it's a hyper-converged platform for databases. We support Oracle, all versions. We support SQL, all versions. We do MySQL, we do Postgres, and we do MariaDB for Postgres. In fact, we also intend to do a 24/7 support for the Postgres. So you get end-to-end database experience. And some of these services that what we're trying to do, Greg, is one-click simplicity for provisioning, including the complex configurations like rack, always-on availability groups, or Postgres clusters. You will have a very sophisticated one-click patching. You will have a data protection like time machine. So you just imagine a time machine capability for your databases. Your ability to go back to any point in time, literally to the second, and creating copies or restoring the data. A time machine for essentially some of you guys, you probably use Mac, the time machine like feature, but meant for databases. All of this is something that we can do on at Nutanix, and we are doing it so that we want to bring that cloud experience. We want the DBS to enjoy their weekends. One of the things that I have seen at Oracle is I pretty much last weekends, I would say, managing thousands and thousands of databases. When it comes to Friday, all the way up to SVPs and EVPs, it's a dreading experience. Like, we have customers who are trying to do something on the Friday. So for most of the people, it's weekend. For all the database administrators, my brothers, I would say here, it's like their day starts, and then it's Friday night to Sunday night kind of stuff. Yeah. We want to eliminate that. We want to give that consumer grade experience through the software to the database administrators. That's what we are trying to do. And we'll talk about a feature called DAM here. It's a data access management layer. So what I'm trying to say is, like, as you said, data is the new currency. Data is the new oil, or data is the new water, which is very important. There's a lot of water, but there's good water. You need to harness it. It's like a racing river coming down. But as chief data officers, you need to control it, you need to harness it, you need to kind of give the right access to the right amount of people in your companies. So the feature called time machine and data access management features, you'll be able to harness it and democratize the data access, but at the same time keeping the control, which is slightly difficult in public cloud, in my opinion, but you can achieve it through this software. Okay.
Gotcha. No, thanks. This is great. So, you can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, this is great. Thanks, Bala. So I think you've given some really good insights, and I think this is where you say what you're mentioning kind of at the beginning of the session, trying to create that consumer grade kind of iPhone experience, and this is where I see kind of what some of the value that the era can really bring is just take that whole complex, highly administrative, very often mundane and time consuming set of tasks that a lot of the administrators have to do, and really turn those into highly automated operations that become a lot more simplistic. Hence the one-click provisioning, hence one-click backing up and stuff like that using snapshot technology. So I think these yes.
Let me pick on the backup thought, actually, right? So I want the audience to take away that, today we do backups, which we call them online backups, because you cannot shut down the database and do a cold backup. You have to do online backup.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen customers backups going on to like 6 to 7 hours, creeping into their business and then affecting the database performance. With our technology, you will be able to cut down your backup to less than a minute. I want to repeat this, less than a minute. I have seen a 70 terabyte database, Oracle database, getting backed up in less than a minute with our customers. We leverage the Armin APIs as well as the storage layer, the secret sauce of what we have today. You will be able to achieve level 0 equivalent backups with this offering in less than a minute, irrespective of the size of the database. It could be 30 terabyte database, it could be 100 terabyte database, it could be 4 terabyte database. I have seen customers enjoying it, and they can. That's the agility that we are talking about. And these are synthetic full backups. These are fully functional level 0 backups, meaning we have seen customers performing full backups on all the days. Today, if you look at some of these databases technologies, they take a full backup on a weekend, and then they take the incremental backups because they cannot perform the full backup. It's either storage costly, or it takes like 6 to 7 hours every day. And as a result, what is happening here, Greg, is the RTO gets affected, meaning recovery time objective, what we call that as. Meaning, if God forbid something happens on Thursday, your recovery time takes like 8 to 9 hours. We can do is less than 20-minute recovery, because we can pick the Thursday backup, which will be a full backup equivalent at the cost of incremental backup cost. That's the thing that we talk about with this platform. So all in all, we can cut down provisioning from 3 to 5 weeks to kind of less than an hour. We can take backups, which generally take hours, to less than a minute. We can do a one-click patching. In fact, we just performed a live patching with one of our big customers in the airline industry. Their patching window was 16 hours. We could cut down to less than an hour end-to-end kind of stuff. So this is like cloud. Essentially, the database administrators will be able to focus more on business rather than these undifferentiated tasks. So that's our goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely key. Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, look, I see this being a pretty comprehensive solution, because when you look at it, we have that infrastructure platform that sets everything up, that basically virtualizes and really helps create that infrastructure platform that you can really run your database environment on. And then you're coupling it with these services that really take that whole database management lifecycle, and as you said, just really simplify it, give it that consumer grade experience, but still have all the power because of the built-in intelligent automation behind it. So hopefully this is some great stuff for customers.
I probably take 1 minute on the platform also.
Sure.
we are doing the platform on which the resolution was built is like a cloud platform. Means you are going to get 5 nines of your availability, because the technology allows us to replicate the data in a way that your fault tolerance, your HADR capability is inbuilt into the database, the platform, irrespective of the database. You can do encryption at rest, meaning you don't need to rely on the database encryptions and spend license cost there. You can rely on the platform.
Right.
It gives you that kind of agility. And it has the DR capability built into the platform, right? So your disaster recovery solution just comes with the commonly for all these databases. So there is ton of features that we have innovated in our platform, coupled with the database lifecycle, that makes this whole thing highly differentiated. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Paula. And so actually, something I put together here is really kind of giving you folks on the call today some insights into some of the actual kind of value that we see or we've been able to deliver based on some real world outcomes with our customers. And there's many different areas where we're seeing some pretty exceptional benefits. You can start off with that whole taking the database management life cycle and the tasks and the daily operations and simplifying it. And we actually have, for example, one customer who's in the enterprise environment, and they were running a lot of Oracle database and stuff like that. And there was one lone database administrator, and this lady was tasked with managing, like you said, hundreds of databases. And we ran some calculations, and some of the data that she was able to provide was actually showing that more than 75% of her time was literally being spent just doing these low value tasks, right? Your provisioning, the patching, the maintenance and stuff like that, rather than doing things such as data modeling or performance optimization or focusing on security, right? Things that can really help, the database to perform a lot better and therefore help the business. And after switching to the Nutanix platform, they were able to run a recalculation and saw a whopping 87% reduction in the whole database administration side of things. So, some real benefits that we're seeing happening in the taking that solution and really simplifying what it is they're doing to help them to stay on top of, the many databases that they have to manage. We see lots of performance and benefits in running on this platform and with the database as service, like one which we'll come on to. They were able to accelerate their time to market, to bring new services to market by as much as 8x. Like you said, we were talking about the whole backup, Bala. It's like literally taking minutes to back up and do recovery operations, not hours, sometimes 24 hours and beyond, right? And so, the time to do that disaster recovery is getting cut down dramatically. And then, so, all this is compounding together because it means that, the actual operational costs and costs of operations, because there's more time being saved, a lot of these administrators are now being redeployed to projects. And the same was for this lady who was running this enterprise environment. She was actually able to switch, over half of her time to focus on now some of these new projects, which are really supporting these business initiatives. And doing so, it really helps to bring down the total cost of operations. So, if you're in the finance side of things or working with the finance folks, these are some real pretty hefty benefits that we can actually deliver for customers. And this is what we've seen with our experience working with customers.
Yeah. So I just want to summarize that.
So sure. Go ahead, right? Yeah.
Our motto is to give back the weekends back to these administrators. That's the cost of that immense for the companies. And then the total operational cost, we can cut it by half, the TCO. If there is one message I want the audience to take about this total cost of operations of your database estate, we are seeing the benefits of more than 50%, whether the benefits either come in the form of CapEx or OpEx, meaning reduced operation lengths, or even sometimes in licenses, because it's a consolidation platform where there are some situations where you can reduce your database licenses too. So if I want to remember that get back your weekends, reduce your TCO by kind of approximately 50% through CapEx, OpEx, and licensing. We would like to be challenged. I'm more than happy to kind of help customers to make it happen. Yeah, please go ahead.
And also to help accelerate the business, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a little quick dive into a company. This is actually a recent success story. It's a company called RBL Bank, and they're a bank in India. They're actually one of the fastest growing private sector banks. They tend to operate in the mid-sector, and they're serving like over 7.8 million customers is who they're serving. They've got a large network of about 386 branches and across just over 1,600 offices. These guys today, if you look at them today, they've actually become recently rated as India's best bank in the mid-sized bank segment. And this was not the case a few years ago. And can I walk you through a journey quickly in terms of them sort of working and partnering with Nutanix for a solution around their databases and beyond, and kind of how that really sort of helped to transform their digital business that they were trying to transform. So these guys, they had a traditional infrastructure platform. It was nearing the end of its life. They had some problems around the end user computing. It wasn't performing that well. We were seeing situations where the virtual desktops were going down for like 5 minutes at a time, and there were lengthy login times taking several minutes. And then kind of when it came to the databases, the pain point that they had, whoops, the slide just moved forward. That was not supposed to happen. Don't know what happened there. Hang on, give me a second. Let me just click that back. That sort of auto moved because my hands weren't even touching it. But anyway, going on with these challenges, the databases were becoming quite a big frustration. They have both Oracle and Microsoft SQL databases, to what Bala was saying earlier on, and trying to access this data was frustratingly slow, and it really had some big impact. So they have a call center where these customer service folks would be calling customers, and obviously through the customer services and taking in calls, etc., they were ultimately trying to cross-sell and upsell to new services. So, for example, credit cards, right? And what was happening, they were seeing that the call center volume, as a result of these stagnating, older databases, was really starting to take a dive. Cloning, like what you were saying, Bala, right? They had to clone hundreds of databases, and each database was taking a terabyte of storage. So whenever they were doing that cloning, so clearly that was driving up their IT costs quite significantly. So this complexity and maintaining the database workloads meant that the time to market on the business end was really suffering. So if they were trying to take a new service to market, it was taking like anywhere between 2 to 4 days. And what they were seeing is their competitors would be able to turn this around a lot quicker, and so they were getting surpassed. So they embarked on this journey with Nutanix, and obviously adopted the infrastructure, the hyperconverged infrastructure platform. The first step that they took in the journey was working on to fix the end user computing side of things, and I think it was back in 2018 that they took on a 14-node Nutanix cloud platform cluster, and that was supporting about 5,000 users, right? And they saw some immediate impact on the performance on the end user computing side of things. It was totally transformative for them. And so from an end user and IT perspectives, they were able to eliminate outages and thereby simplify the administration drastically. So that went really well. So they then turned to the database. Yes?
Yeah, I want to give one. Yeah, I was
okay. Well, you work directly with them too, right?
Yeah, I was talking to the CIO. Very interesting anecdote there, Greg. The database administration team who looks after SQL databases, they never ever created Oracle database. Right? One of these days, actually, a very small backup database team, the Oracle administrator was not available. the SQL administrator was able to create a RAC database, Oracle RAC database, using a software, all in one clicks kind of stuff. So basically what I'm trying to say is one software covers all kinds of database engines, your life cycle. That's the beauty, that you're not creating a lot of specialists. One can manage. It doesn't lock you in with one database only, but it allows you to grow into future database engines we will keep on adding. So he was super happy to hear that. It's a very interesting data point that I thought that I will add to this discussion.
Yeah, that's a great one. So no Oracle certifications required, right? I mean, but that just highlights the simplicity of it, right? And the ability to take a lot of those, really complex steps and simplify them, that somebody who's doesn't have Oracle database certification can actually do that, right? So yeah, very good. Great data point. So kind of moving on with this journey, they then turned to the database side of things, and they selected the Nutanix cloud platform to deliver this database as a service for them. And what they were trying to get was this application transformation to help drive the speed and agility, right? So they added like 8 nodes to support the database as a service solution, as I recall. And you can correct me if this data has been updated, Bala, but they then migrated that. They migrated not only the support for the Nutanix banking, for their banking systems, as well as the critical SQL Server databases, but they also moved along with the SaaS analytics and a whole stack of other applications, including document management systems. So going back to like the cloning, what they were seeing was that each database clone was taking up this 1 terabyte of storage. So when they ran the analysis running on error, with this capability that we have, which we call 0-byte cloning, which enables you to create a clone that doesn't use any storage, right? And so therefore it's 0 bytes. Just doing some quick calculations, they estimated they were actually able to save over 90 terabytes on their storage costs. Again, a testament to what you were saying earlier on Bala. And the concept.
Let me give another interesting data point here, Greg. This banking customer needs to maintain data every 15 days because they are into credit and all that stuff. They need to analyze the data. So we are talking about 40 terabyte databases of things. They need to maintain 4 weeks worth of data, see how the credit analytics needs to happen. Earlier, they were creating literally the full copies that month starting, middle of the month, end of the month, and follow. So they have to compare it. With our cloning technology, they can click and create clones all the way to 2 months, not costing anything, as you rightly said, 0-byte cloning, and run the same queries or analytics. So the whole process, first of all, cut down, and storage cost is saving, and then cloning cost that takes like 3-4 days to set it up can cut down to less than like few hours. So someone can visualize what I'm trying to say. That's the beauty of agility that we are bringing to them. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, there's these guys. There's a plethora of different, sort of highly relevant and productive outcomes that they have. So, one area is with the call center and the applications that they're running it on via the databases. They were able to actually reduce the login times from 180 down to 30 seconds. So that's 6 times faster. And so what they saw is that their staff were able to deliver a much better level of service because they were able to deal with all these customer calls, a lot more customer calls. And actually the customer call volume, they were actually able to gain over 160 hours of call volume per day. And kind of the impact that this has on the business was not just the level of quality of service that they were able to provide to customers, but they actually were able to increase their credit card sales because, again, this is one of the outlined sort of objectives of the call center was to do this cross-sell. And over a period of time, they were actually able to increase their credit card sales by 4x. So that extra time that they gained, really helped them to boost some of their credit card sales. So there's some pretty spectacular outcomes that these guys can have. And we just wanted to share that with you. So as we move on, Bala, as we kind of wrap up, let's start wrapping up here. We want to give some time for some questions and answers. So, folks, if you have any questions, please put them in the question box, and we'd be happy to take them. But as we start wrapping up, Bala, what would you say are some of the key things you'd like the audience to really take away and kind of leave them with?
Okay, thank you. So one thing, I want my audience, especially all the database administrators, are the people who are managing the operations. Guys, the innovation is not just in the consumer grade items like phones, cameras. The innovation can happen for the products that we are actually spending hours and days and daily, almost like a significant portion of the time. And I strongly believe that. And especially my passion is about databases. We're going to bring the consumer grade experience, one-click management experience, at the same time cloud-like utility experience, that you can create database cloud. You as administrators can create database cloud at your terms, meaning that your company's security policies, your standards of RPO, your hardened images of software need not go to the public cloud to get there. You definitely can go there as the need fits in, but you can bring the cloud experience to your own data center, and you can cut down and then do all this undifferentiated heavy lifting through this kind of tooling, and then give the delightful experience to your consumers, and then focus on intellectually differentiating tasks, like as we're talking about data modeling, data tuning, and making sure that creating the AI/ML models into the data, so that you can focus on higher value kind of stuff. So try us out, look at the content, and if you guys have any questions, please do reach out to us. Happy to help you guys transform your database business into your companies. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bala. So, guys, just as we go forward, there's a couple of things here, and I don't know why this slide's not advancing. Hold on a second.
David, you have a question?
Absolutely, yeah. We do have some questions from the audience. Are you all ready?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to just conclude one quick thing in terms of kind of next steps for the audience before we switch over to the questions. And folks, if you guys are interested, one of the best ways for you to get kind of let's call it a hands-on experience is this thing that we have on our website. It's available there. We've provided links in here, and it's called Test Drive. And so this is probably the quickest and best way for you guys to really kind of get some insights into experiencing what Nutanix, the database as a service, can do for you, and kind of give you a walkthrough in terms of how it actually works, and some kind of sort of typical examples throughout a daily operations thing. So go check that out. I think that's a really great one for you guys to take a look at. And then we also have some additional resources. Again, you can see it in the handouts here. But if you guys are looking for more information, you can go onto our website. So you can see a link there. It'll take you to the database solutions page. And then there's several other assets. So I think that's it in terms of what we want to share with you. We'd love to take some of your questions. And so if there's any questions, let us know.
Absolutely, yeah. Great presentation, Bala and Greg. Thank you so much. We do have some questions for you from the audience. In fact, why don't we just leave up the test drive slide while we do that? I want to remind everyone, like Greg just said, in the handouts tab, there's a link to Test Drive Era for yourself. So make sure you check that out. So first question that came in here, Robert is asking, is there any ability to mask the data? I'm not sure if he's talking about when you import it, or data confidentiality, privacy features.
Yeah, thank you, Robert, for asking the question. As we talked about our copy data management capability, you will be able to achieve all your HIPAA and PCI compliances with this software. I mean, you will be able to mask databases, keep those database snapshots in the production zone until you expose to your QA and dev zones. And we do help with format preserving encryption for some of your needs, meaning that if you have to preserve social security numbers, but just fake them as another social security number so that you don't break your application logic with putting some random numbers there. We will do that. So all these capabilities are possible. In fact, you will see soon that you will be able to expose sanitized snapshots, or what I call masked database copies, across on-prem to the public cloud. That means that what we call this is hybrid cloud phenomena. That's what I call it, as all this covered as a feature called DAM, data access management. Yeah. Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah, that sounds very exciting. Feature to look forward to. The next question came from Bob, and he's asking, I think he asked this when you were talking about the kind of time database point in time. He's asking if there, time machine. Thank you. He's asking if there is point in time recovery built into this.
Absolutely. That's why we call this as time machine. Like, unlike other database vendors or the copy data management, you will be able to recover to last committed transaction or to any point in time. Meaning, today is like July 28th, that's the 27th. You want to go back to July 20th, evening 5 o'clock, 43rd minute, 17 seconds. You'll be able to achieve it.
Okay, excellent. I like that. Next question comes from Eric, and he's asking, how are the data copies done? Is that done using a snapshot? Can you give us any insight into what's under the hood?
We do have a document under the hood for precisely the same, for the answers for like that. And we are more than happy to share the document, how the whole stuff works. But you're right that it's a combination of database APIs and then our storage snapshots under the hood. But our storage snapshots, we create them as database snapshots. They are not just dumb storage, but they are actually database snapshots. And we make them, the big difference between us and anybody in the competition in the market is the quality of our service. The quality of the clones is as good as source, meaning we have seen people creating copies from Exadata like environments onto us. The clones that were created on Nutanix almost behaved in terms of performance characteristics like they were on the source environments, the purpose-built database appliances. So that's the beauty of it. And I'll take an action item. We'll send this under the hood guide kind of a document that with some of the audience. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, that sounds fascinating to read. Well, it looks like we're running out of time here in our Q&A session. We've got a lot of good questions coming in. Before we go, Bala or Greg, any final words, final thoughts?
No, good. Thank you, David. This is good. And looking at the questions, I can feel that the people are getting connected to the topic. That's the most important thing that we want to achieve here. And then a lot of follow-up details as the last slide talks about it. So please visit our website, nutanix.com and ERA. And please do this test drive. This is like driving a car. So you're going to a car dealer and driving it at no cost. So try it and then give us your feedback. We are happy to learn anything and we are happy to fill the requirements. But our goal is to simplify your life, give back your weekends, cut down the cost, bring the cloud experience. So give us your opinion about the product. Thank you.
I like that. Simplify your life and give it a try for free. Sounds great. And I encourage everyone to check out again in the handouts tab the test drive ERA link, as well as all the other resources. Before we go, I want to announce the winner of our Tango $300 gift card. That's going to Chris Paul from California. Congratulations. We'll reach out to you to deliver that Tango gift card. I want to thank you to Nutanix for supporting today's event. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Bala. Great presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate everybody joining. We hope it was useful. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Yeah. And make sure to join the next session.
That's right. We've got, yes, this is the first 7 sessions. We've got 6 more sessions coming up. So I encourage everyone to watch your email inbox for an invitation to upcoming Power Up Your Databases with Nutanix events. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day. Some good deep dive sessions.
give your email, Greg. If there are any further questions, we are more than happy to take. So please reach out to us.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks,
Have a good day.
everyone.